Shrugged by Ayn Rand. Okay, this is the 10th live. By the way, I've created a playlist on YouTube. So if you access the playlists tab, you will have the playlists, a playlist called Atlas Shrugged. So you can rewatch the previous lives and videos. Okay. Now, this next quote is by James Tagert, a rich but corrupt businessman. A lot of, I would say, a lot of people assume that Ayn Rand is the advocate for the rich, and she is defending any rich person, but that's far from the truth. And James Tagert is one of the worst and one of the richest and one of the most powerful characters in the book. He has friends in Washington, so he has economical power and he has political power as well. And he's kind of rotten. He's corrupt mentally and in terms of his behavior. So James Tagert says the following about his sister, Dagny. She's a hard, insensitive woman who spends her life building tracks and bridges, not for any great ideal, but only because that's what she enjoys doing. If she enjoys it, what is there to admire about her doing it? I'm not so sure it was great building that line for all those prosperous industrialists in Colorado, when there are so many poor people in blighted areas who need transportation. So he's a progressive businessman, as she calls them in the book. He inherited his wealth; he didn't earn it, and he doesn't really know how to make money as an earnest businessman. He knows the craft of extortion, but not the craft and science of making money. And he criticizes his sister, who is an achiever, who is this personification of a just and logical business person who builds their wealth through productive work, through reason and through productive work. Hi, Hugo Solorzano. Where are you joining us from, Hugo? And tell me a little bit about yourself, okay? Okay, next quote. I mean, we're only human beings, and what's a human being? A weak, ugly, sinful creature, born that way, rotten in his bones. So humility is the one virtue he ought to practice. He ought to spend his life on his knees, begging to be forgiven for his dirty existence. When a man thinks he's good, that's when he's rotten. Pride is the worst of all sins, no matter what he's done. Again, this is James speaking, James Tagert. So in the previous quote as well, we have this same idea that achievement is not great. And you know, sometimes when people say, I'm only a human, or I'm just a human, they may mean different things. I'm only a human, for some people means I'm weak, I cannot do anything, I'm only a human, I'm just a human. It's like as if those people justify their flaws, saying, well, I'm so little, I'm so small, I don't know much, I cannot do much. That's one thing, one approach. And in another paradigm, when you say I'm a human, it means you're a rational, logical achiever who can build skyscrapers, produce art, make Wi-Fi and smartphones, and create civilizations, beautiful, splendid and comfortable civilizations across the globe. So it really depends on your pair of glasses, like those goggles I have here, or ordinary glasses. Like if your glasses are gray, whatever you observe through those lenses will seem gray to you. Yeah. And if your glasses are truly transparent, you may observe all the natural colors. So objectivism is more about having those transparent glasses instead of just having pink, let's say pink glasses or rainbow glasses. We want reality. We want objective reality. We want to observe it, to learn about it, to learn to modify it, to build these walls, yeah, apartments and civilizations, electricity to make our lives comfortable, to live as human beings. And human being in this context means someone who can build, someone who can achieve and create beauty. And James Tagert obviously doesn't believe in that. So he's born into comfort, he's born into wealth, and his philosophy is that of a parasite. Yeah. Of course, that doesn't mean every person who is born into wealth, needs to have this type of mindset. It depends. But yeah, sometimes people are like that. Cases writes big forehead. Yeah, I have a big forehead. That's a sign of intelligence. And you have a very narrow, small, little mind. And it's obvious by what you choose to write on YouTube. Guys, I encourage you to give me thumbs up. Okay, so likes and comments. You can say hi. You can tell me where are you joining from, whether you have read Atlas Shrugged and what do you think of it, and whether you know anything about Ayn Rand's philosophy, objectivism. Okay, next quote. Yeah. And then the conversation, the dialogue continues between James and his future wife. After James says that human beings are dirty, they need to live their lives on their knees, begging forgiveness for their dirty existence, she asks, but if a man knows that what he's done is good, then he ought to apologize for it. To whom? To those who haven't done it. I don't understand. So again, James Tagert. Hi JJ. Hey there. So where are you from? Where are you joining us from? He has this, it's in some way it's also kind of Christian, right? Like religious, like we humans are born into sin. This idea is in Abrahamic religions, right? Like you are born and you already are bad. You are already in debt. You are already inferior. That's a very sinister and manipulative way to control your consciousness, your thinking, to drive you into guilt, like to make you feel guilty so that, the accuser can profit from your sense of guilt. That's horrible. And in the book, Ayn Rand also speaks of the original sin. We'll get there much later. Okay. So that partially comes from Christianity and from religions, and partially that comes also from political collectivism. It can come from socialism, communism, Marxism, where individuals are nothing, only masses create, only workers create, entrepreneurs and businessmen and scientists, artists, they are worth nothing. It's only the working class who creates everything, right? So it's different ilks of collectivism trying to claim leadership, ownership and control over the human psyche and the human spirit. Yeah. And Ayn Rand exposes it very beautifully. Then, again, James Tagert goes on. In the same conversation, he answers to his future wife, who is not like him. He answers her, "Of course you don't understand. It takes years and years of study in the higher reaches of the intellect. Have you ever heard of The Metaphysical Contradictions of the Universe by Dr. Simon Pritchell?" She shook her head, frightened. "How do you know what's good anyway? Who knows what's good? Who can ever know? There are no absolutes, as Dr. Pritchett has proved irrefutably. Nothing is absolute. Everything is a matter of opinion. How do you know that that bridge hasn't collapsed? You only think it hasn't. How do you know that there's any bridge at all? You think that a system of philosophy such as Dr. Pritchett's is just something academic, remote, impractical, but it isn't. Oh boy, how it isn't." So a lot of blah 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 from James Tagert, and this blah 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 actually is very alive even today. Many of those ideas that are said here are very popular in popular conversations, in the milieux of bloggers, activists, leftists. The left wing loves some of those cliché ideas. One interesting thing. So he says, how can you know what's good anyway? Who knows what's good? He goes, so he denies even the possibility of people learning, discovering things, making logical and sound conclusions. This is their realm, the realm of absolute relativism, which is everywhere, not about like in scientific terms, like gravity or everything is relative, but they claim relativity even on very mundane levels, like as if tomorrow I wake up and the gravity on Earth is something different because everything is relative. Or I wake up 5 years from now and the sun is gone. Well, that is false, right? The gravity of our Earth is, as far as we know, as human beings who live only a certain amount of time, certain decades. Gravity is constant, and it has been that way for ages. Or the sun has been shining for millions of years, and it will continue shining for a long time, millions or billions of years. So even though we could say that there is this concept of relativism, but still you have to consider the specific layer of reality. From the perspective of a single individual, when you say everything is relative, you deprive yourself of the clarity of your vision. You proclaim that your reason is worthless, that you cannot observe and learn things through direct perception, through logical analysis, and so on. And you make yourself very vulnerable. You cover your mind with an intellectual fog when you do that. You make yourself an intellectual handicap when you do that to yourself. And then he goes on saying, nothing is absolute. See, when you say nothing is absolute, that in itself is an absolutist claim. So you you hold one absolute claim. Nothing is absolute. That in itself is already very absolute, right? When you say nothing is absolute. So it's an you're negating, you're saying nothing is absolute. There is no absolute thing. So it's kind of an empty and manipulative principle or axiom. Yeah. When you claim it and when you don't realize what you imply by that, then you are putting yourself in a very, philosophically speaking, in a very precarious condition or state. How do you know that nothing is absolute? If nothing is absolute, how can that claim that nothing is absolute, how that can be absolute? You know? So Jason asks, who's the lady with behind you on the picture? She's the leader of the Belarusian opposition. She was elected as president, but had to either was deported or had to move away from her country, Belarus. My roommates are from Belarus, so they have Tsikhanovskaya, that's her last name. Yeah, a political leader from Belarus. So when someone says nothing is absolute or everything is false, when you hear such absolutist claims, you should learn to distinguish or discern someone who is either highly manipulative or highly ignorant or an amateur in the field of reason and logic, because that's a very broad claim. And how can you prove it? So people like James Tagert, they want this. They adopt this kind of elusive and irrational philosophy in order to manipulate people. Yes, everything is a matter of opinion, James Tagert says. This makes me think of the hippies. There are registered cases of some individuals, hippies, jumping out of the window, believing that they could fly. They were under substance when they did that, but still, you know, a lot of people can be under substance and choose not to do that, right? So it takes not only substance to do such things. It takes this infantile stage, logically speaking. So when you abandon reason, when you abandon logic, when what you know and acknowledge is only feelings and emotions and your personal opinion, then you can end up like that. You can conclude erroneously that even gravity is a matter of opinion. And if you truly believe you can fly, yeah, I believe I can fly. Or just as Jesus said, if you truly believe, you can even make the mountain move. So when you're in the realm of pure faith or emotions or your own whims, you are very vulnerable. You are making yourself defenseless against reality. But that's your choice, you know, and that's a philosophical choice. Some people choose that. Others are fooled into those philosophies. And when I speak of reason and logic, I don't mean that you need to suppress your emotions. Like, I have emotions too. And when I read the book, like, I feel pleasure. I think sometimes you may feel it from my intonations, from my enthusiasm. So it's not really about suppressing your emotions. It's Rather, it's about understanding the hierarchy. What is primary and what comes later. So reason is the only absolute, as we say in objectivism, meaning you always have to analyze, think, you have to consider your specific context, and you cannot delegate. Well, you could, but that would be a very bad idea to delegate your faculty of thinking, reasoning, and coming to sound conclusions. You know, that you would make a zombie out of yourself if you were to give that faculty to someone, whether it would be a religious leader, a political leader, ChatGPT, or whatever. You know, if you give up that faculty of yours, you are making yourself very, very vulnerable. Okay, now Jason says, can I ask what are you reading from? I'm struggling with intrusive thoughts and controlling my emotions and seem really intelligent. Well, yeah, Jason, this is Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand. Very, very useful piece of literature. It's a novel in the style of romantic realism, but there is very, very practical philosophy in it. The philosophy of objectivism, something Ayn Rand created herself, so it's very useful. This could maybe help you with your intrusive thoughts, although I'm not counseling. Who knows, maybe you need to seek some professional help, but still a lifelong journey, a philosophical one, to build a very sound and practical and decent philosophy that is about freedom, reason, joy of life, and integrity. That will definitely benefit you a lot. Okay. Right. Andrew says Earth is flat. Okay, Andrew reminds me of those hippies that were saying they could fly and they would just jump off the windows. Yeah, you can choose to believe that the Earth is flat. Okay, but that's your feeling, that's your belief, and maybe we could talk about it in the future. But I'm not really interested, to be honest. Now, and there are philosophers like this even today. Yeah, philosophers who try to prove that choice and freedom are false. There is no such thing as choice. The fact that I chose to go live on YouTube with y'all right now is not really my choice. That nothing is absolute, everything is relative. Yeah, there are those philosophers who are after attention and control. And they try to make people some of them consciously try to handicap people. Yeah, others may genuinely believe that, but still, that determinism is very weak in terms of explaining the fact of innovation, any type of innovation. Like, if everything is determined, if we have no free will, how any innovation comes, like how someone chose to build a shack thousands and thousands years ago instead of continuously living in caves. How someone came up with the concept of a smartphone or an iPhone. So any innovation is a challenge to that determinism. Okay. Now, James Tagert, again, this is about his philosophy. His future wife, tries to earnestly understand him and his motivation. So she asks him questions, she tries to understand him, and again she asks, "What is it, Mr. Taggart? What is it that you want?" And he says the following. Oh, there you go. The moment you ask, "What is it?" you're back in the crude material world where everything's got to be tagged and measured. I'm speaking of things that can't be named in materialistic words, the higher realms of the spirit, which man can never reach. What's any human achievement anyway? The earth is only an atom whirling in the universe. Of what importance is that bridge to the solar system? So the bridge they refer is built of a new material in the book, rear than metal, and it's yet another innovation that shouldn't actually have existed in the world of determinism and in the world of the working class, because it's one man's invention who has been experimenting for decades. But yeah, there we have it. So in this passage, James Tagert actually denies the very basic law of logic, the law of identity. You could also call it an axiom. Existence exists, yeah, or A is A. So he says, why material world where everything has got to be tagged and measured? I'm speaking of things that can't be named in materialistic words. So A is a very specific logical law. Like a cup is a cup. That's the first law of logic, the law of identity. And when we speak of identity, we can speak of identification as well, of identifying, like when the reason of a rational human being, or, well, we could by extension speak of any creature that has a mind and senses of organs of, what's the term? Organs of perception. We could say that if cat fails to identify a wall as a wall and tries to go through the wall, the cat will hurt itself, right? So it's not even about humans. It's about every living being. Like when a seedling, a little seed, opens up, sprouts in the winter, and it's not, it doesn't have the mechanism to grow in winter time, the seed will kill itself. So every living thing has this faculty of identification, of identifying the right conditions, whatever they see in front of them. If mosquitoes, for instance, they couldn't identify our movements as movements, and they couldn't have this sensation that it's very dangerous, I need to just get away from here, they would be, all the mosquitoes would be killed by us. Yeah, they would disappear very fast. So it's not just human beings, you know, it's every living creatures. They need to have this faculty of correct identification, of identifying objects and processes in a correct way. Humans have a more complex mind, and they have to do that even more so, because it's not just about survival, it's also about prosperity. If you want to live as a human being, not just as a mammal or as a primate, if you want to enjoy the comforts of civilization like electricity, the Wi-Fi, roads and cars, you have to understand that A is a cup is a cup. And the cup cannot also be a goggle, because those are two separate things. That's actually the second law of logic. A cannot be non-A. A cup cannot be a non-cup. So in the same universe, at the same time, if you have one object that is a cup, it cannot be something else. Mystics hate this. They want to misidentify things. Sometimes it is done from the realm of religion, and other times it is done from the realm of politics, because relativism allows them to do whatever they want and claim that everything is relative. No one can call my corrupt action as corrupt action. This is why relativism and non-absolutism is so precious and so attractive to manipulators, looters, and moochers, because it allows them to manipulate, to lie, to commit crimes, to live as parasites, etc. So James Tagert actually demonstrates that in this passage when he says, "No, I'm speaking of non-material things that cannot be named in materialistic words." So if you fail to identify things the way they are, it means you're evading something. You either lack the knowledge or you have some other motives, like the motive of manipulating, controlling, cheating, of allowing yourself to always claim that whatever you did can be interpreted as good, because everything is relative. So if you robbed someone, if you stole money, if you broke a law, but you did it for the sake of the country, for the sake of the church or the working class or whatever, then that could be justified. That goes against the fundamental laws of logic. A is A, and A cannot be non-A. Yeah. And there are two more laws of logic, but I think as of now I will not mention them. So yeah, they love this verbiage. She says, what's any human achievement anyway? The Earth is only an atom whirling in the universe. Of what importance is that bridge to the solar system? So I hear this type of reasoning also from leaders. Like there is one person I like a lot, I respect him, Sadhguru. I heard it from him as well, although in a different context. He was trying to address the problem of human stress, and he was trying to advise people to look at them from above, from afar, that, you know, whatever you're worrying about right now, in the long run, when you just have this meta consciousness, when you look at it from a farther perspective, will not be relevant to you in a year or in 10 years. So take it easy. In that context, that could be at least understandable. But this thinking, when you do it the way James Tagert does, like you belittle the human being, you depict the human being as weak, you depict individualism and individuals as impotent, powerless, and you only raise groups like collectives. It can be about a nation, it can be about a working class, it can be about women or Christians or the white race or only the black race, doesn't matter. If it's about collectivism, if you take only one group of people, one collective, and you belittle the individual, then you are one of them. You belong to the club of James Tagert. you know, you are manipulating. So I think that will be it for today. Still a lot of quotes to go, to discover. So subscribe to the channel, okay? And I'll see you guys next time. Thank you for having been with me, and enjoy the rest of your Monday. See you. Okay, good.